Robert, we are live here in Wimberley along the Blanco River, but I really want you to see the damage on this side of the river. Look at all these trees. I mean, these are huge trees, scars that are going to take months, if not years, to heal. Tonight, the search is still on for 8 people missing in those floods. They are still waiting to identify the body of a boy found yesterday along the river. So many homes damaged by water. Today, I spoke with a woman who has lived in her home for 1 year. Her home is 200 yards away from the Blanco River, 30 yards up. She lost everything she has in the flood, but she said that's not even what's hurting her the most.
They came up so fast. We had literally 20 minutes to get out. I looked out my back window and literally saw a wall of water coming. And you just watch everything going.
No one deserves to die like Holly Simmons did.
And no one should be able to get away with murder. Tonight, we explore the case surrounding a grisly discovery in the depths of Inks Lake and the mysterious death of Holly Simmons, unsolved for nearly 9 years. Now, in an effort to bring her killer out of the shadows, investigators are coming forward with details they have never talked about publicly. They say the 48-year-old mother was killed in her home, and the evidence shows it was a violent death, and they believe Holly knew her killer. Tonight, after months of investigating, we put those new clues together. Maybe someone watching tonight knows who killed the lady in the lake.
July 7th, 2009. In the murky water of Inks Lake, divers find an old John boat. Inside, a bone reaches up from a watery grave. And off the waters of the Florida coast, 1,200 miles away, a brother and sister have been reaching out for answers about their missing sister, Holly Marie Simmons.
We were always close, you know, big brother always looking out for his sisters, you know.
What are you thinking when you see that?
Good times.
But when their sister disappeared, Paul Wishman and Deborah Sherwood knew something wasn't right. Holly would never leave her children.
The not knowing was the worst.
Now, finally, they knew where Holly was. How she got there is the question they're still asking.
Holly Simmons disappeared in November of 2006.
The story of Holly's end begins 3 years before her body was found in the water, just miles away from her home in Buchanan Dam. On November 28, 2006, Holly sent her teenage daughters off to school just before 7 o'clock in the morning. It was the last time anyone, other than her killer, saw her alive.
Her purse, her cell phone, her car were at the house when her daughter came home that afternoon, but she was missing at the time.
It was tough not knowing, okay, what happened, and then all of a sudden she goes missing. Wait a minute.
The mystery about where Holly was ended here, under the old Inks Lake Bridge. That scuba diver found her remains 18 feet under the water, weighted down by 600 pounds of concrete. Someone obviously didn't want her found. Investigators want to find that person, and now we know that search starts at Holly's house. What was the scene that made investigators believe that this wasn't someone who just left on their own?
Well, I'm not going to say what the evidence was. There was physical evidence that something did occur at the house. We don't think she left the house alive.
Do you believe the person who killed Holly knew Holly?
Yes.
Why do you think that?
I will say that it was a personal type of death. It was someone she knew.
Do you believe more than one person was involved in her death?
I feel that it may have been one person involved in her death, but I think it took more than one person to dispose of the body.
Llano County Sheriff Bill Blackburn confirms investigators have a handful of suspects. KXAN has learned detectives interviewed both of Holly Simmons' daughters, along with the landlord of the home she rented in Buchanan Dam, and several other people who knew her.
Do you think you'll solve this case?
I think we will eventually. It's just a matter of getting that right tip. They need to do the time. I mean, and the fact that this person still is out in society, and we know what they're capable of, and maybe living next door to you, you just don't know.
8 years hasn't eased any pain for a brother and sister.
Why is it so important to you all as a family that this person is caught?
You took the life of a mother, sister, daughter, that you may not have thought was worth much. You're wrong.
Blood cancers like leukemia and lymphoma cause more deaths in children than any other cancer.
You would never know 6-year-old Carrie Kitugwa has already been through the fight of her life.
It initially started out as both girls had the flu.
When you were having your chemo, how did you feel?
Scared.
Now in remission, Carrie is the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society's Girl of the Year.
Do you want people to donate money to help?
Yeah.
Yes.
Why should they?
Because it can help the world.
And this is a story that hits close to home for me too, because my dad is a lymphoma survivor, and for the last 10 weeks or so, in honor of Dylan and Carrie and my dad, I have been one of those 11 people working to raise money for blood cancer research as part of the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society's Man and Woman of the Year campaign. If you want to learn more about this campaign and the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, find this story right now on KXAN.com. So we went to Texas Death Row to talk to Rodney Reed about how these new developments may help spare his life.
Would you talk to me a little bit about Stacy? Tell me about her. What was it about her that you liked?
Our relationship was somewhat discreet, you know what I'm saying? We was sneaking around, but she was just she was a fun person.
Have you ever reached out to her family? Because you know that they are very critical of you and believe that you are guilty.
Well, her mom and her two sisters, you know what I'm saying? I just hate the fact that they've been misled, just like the jury was.
If you did not kill Stacy, who do you think did?
The evidence points to one person. The time frame what these doctors come up with points to one person. And all you have to do is read that information and you'll know exactly who that person is.
Jimmy Fennell.
Exactly.
And that's what you believe.
That's what the evidence points to.
Years after the murder, Fennell, a cop himself, pleaded guilty to kidnapping and having sex with a person in his custody. His lawyers tell us, quote, "It's difficult when a police officer goes to jail, but Fennell stepped up and took his medicine," they say, and he should be out in 3 years. You rarely meet a person anymore who hasn't been touched in some way by cancer, and that has inspired many people to do whatever they can to try to create a world without this disease. For one group in Austin and beyond, that meant traveling nearly 9,000 miles to take on the tallest freestanding mountain in the world.
Welcome to Tanzania, home to Mount Kilimanjaro.
And we feel good, ready to take this mountain on in honor of the 30 million plus people fighting cancer.
Meet Mike Thompson and Stephanie Smaluka.
We start our summit attempt at 11 o'clock tonight, and we're going to be climbing that.
But before they got here,
really in this climb, what we're doing is trying to raise hope and awareness and funds.
We met them back at home, here.
Live Strong played an instrumental role in really helping me kind of find life again and telling me that it was okay to hurt and embrace the pain, but then also live a life, to live strong.
Mike Thompson obviously knows a thing or two about taking on a challenge.
At age 10, it was prime of my soccer season. After a few weeks of testing, found out I had acute myeloid leukemia.
He relapsed twice and then developed bone cancer from the radiation that treated his leukemia.
There are several names at the top of my flag. Those are my grandparents, my dad's best friend, and my friend from college named Kate Voth, who passed away from cancer over a year ago.
Mike and Steph are climbing Kili, as they call it, as part of Live Strong's Survivor Summit, where cancer survivors, their friends and family raise money and take on the mountain.
Tell me what you're going to be thinking when you're climbing.
You know, my personal battle with cancer is over. I've been cured for a while. I just had another anniversary, but my fight is still much alive. You know, I see people around me that still face you know, whether it's the disease on their own or a family member or they've lost somebody to it, my fight with cancer never ends.
Hey guys, day 6.
On Summit Day, Mike and Steph and their team climbed 18 hours, 19,000+ feet of rough terrain to the very top.
For about the first minute and a half, I was just in tears of joy, tears of sadness for the people that I've known.
It was incredible, and along the climb, like, you feel everybody who's on that honor flag. You really feel everyone there with you.
It was challenging. It was cold. The altitude was certainly a challenge, I think, for everybody.
And at one point, I pulled him aside and I said, like, Mike, I'm having such a hard time. Like, have you felt this way at all, or is it just me? And he said, like, of course, this is so hard, and I'm feeling that every day, but it's so much easier than being in a hospital bed. And I just remember when you said that, I was like, okay, whatever difficulties we're going through, we're so blessed.
KXAN is a proud sponsor of the Trail of Lights again this year.
And for another year, Shannon's going to help open up the trail, and she's live down at Zoka Park.
We're going to flip the switch on the Rainbow Tunnel. I do want to show you something pretty special. Look at that. The rest of the trail illuminated tonight, looking absolutely beautiful.
Grace was definitely somebody who exemplified what we all want to be in a human being. It was a violent death.
Grace Chen came to the United States from China for a better life. She treated her students at the Grace Language and Cultural Institute in North Austin like family. But where there once was learning, now an empty room sits for lease. Because just around the corner, someone killed the teacher loved by so many.
You often wonder, why her? You know, and why in such a way? Why? And we just do not want her to be forgotten. And we are trying to keep her case, alive.
As they celebrate the start of the Chinese New Year at the Asian American Cultural Center in North Austin, Amy Mock and others in the Chinese community feel unsettled by Grace's still unsolved murder.
She certainly did not deserve to have her life ended in such a violent way. So I'm hoping APD will give us some answer very soon.
But there's another person who desperately needs answers.
It's hard to to describe her, but to me, she's the most important person in my life.
Yu Chong Chen is a 22-year-old student in San Francisco, and he misses his mother.
That's the only thing that matters to me right now, because it's been a year. As long as the killer is not catched and the crime is not solved, it's just something in your heart, you know. Yeah, I just feel like I can't really move on until they caught someone.
You know, we haven't found anybody that ever had anything to say bad about her.
So why would somebody want to kill her?
I wish I knew the answer to that. You know, that's something we've pondered for the past 6-7 months.
Austin Police Homicide Sergeant Brian Miller opened the Grace Chen file for KXAN. Hours of interviews, crime scene photos, a timeline of the case.
It's by far not a cold case. I mean, it's something we look at almost daily. There is evidence available, but it hasn't been matched up to anybody. So that's kind of what we're working on right now.
But you do have DNA evidence in this case?
Yes.
But there are precious few other clues. They know Grace left home the morning of February 19th, 2014, around 9:30. She opened the school in the office space she leased on the second floor of the Galleria Oaks Shopping Center. And then at 3:30 in the afternoon, a call to 911 reporting a woman's body in the second floor restroom. They think someone killed Grace 2 hours earlier, but they still won't say how.
We will get a suspect in the future. We need to be able to have that information available to us. That hasn't been put out to the media, so that way we can know if the person that we're talking to actually has details of the crime.
Any idea at all what a motive would be?
We don't have one at this point. That's really why we're still asking for the public's assistance.